just start na.
Sige po. Sige, sir.
Record to cloud.
Recording in progress.
Okay guys, good afternoon. By the way, I'm Eric Villanueva. I will be your today's lecturer and also for next week for Section B of Certified Management Accountant Part 1, Planning, Budgeting, and Forecasting. So, yan. So, recently, just a quick introduction of myself. So, recently, I just passed the, yung CSCA examination. Ito yung before kasi, before you will take a CSCA, one of the requirements, kailangan na nakapasser ka ng US CMA. So I think recently, they made some changes regarding with the CSCA. If you will be interested to take this certification, this is also an international certification governed by IMA. If you are certified public accountant in the Philippines, then you could apply for this certification. So regarding with naman dito sa CSCA, it is yung materials lang dito are purely online. Ipo-purchase nyo lang yung resource materials from IMA. You should be a member of IMA first before you purchase these materials. And then it's up to you if you will be taking this or not. More or less, maximum 3 to 4 months enough na yun para you can ace a CSC. More on theories and then strategies. Yan. Pero if you have a solid background when it comes dito sa section na to, I think you could easily ace CSCA. Though yung materials or online materials that you will purchase in IMA portal, hindi siya sufficient based on my experience. You should also consult other resources or other materials so that you could easily grasp or ace this CSCA. So far naman, goal ko lang naman is ma-take yung CSCA na yon para at least may additional credential na mag-gain all throughout the yung journey ko sa bilang isang finance professional. And para at least if I want to change the career path, so may edge ako para sa ibang mga applicants or other professionals. So, yan guys. Medyo hindi na ganun ka-strict si IMA when taking the CSCA. That's why they made some recent changes regarding those sa mga requirements. So, guys, okay, let's start with Section B. So, yan, kita nyo na yung hitsura ko. So, I could just stop temporarily the video. And so that at least if ever na makita tayo sa mall or sa walkway or kung saan man, at least mabati nyo ako and then just introduce yourself so that I could also greet you. Okay? So, for today, we will discuss CMA Part 1, Section B, Planning, Budgeting, and Forecasting. Sa section na to, there will be more on theories. So, quite na medyo boring siya. But at the same time naman, you will find this very you will find this very fruitful naman, and then it will add definitely to your you will gain some knowledge about this kasi we're applying this on our day-to-day basis or even in our day-to-day transactions with our respective organizations. So I think everyone could easily adapt and grasp regarding with the topics that we will be discussing. So just let me know guys if the discussion will be fast or a little bit slow because I don't know regarding with everyone's background. So I just need to tackle this chapter or this section based on my based on my previous discussions with other reviewees. Okay. Okay, this section B constitutes your 20% of your CMA Part 1 examination. So there are six subtopics under this section. The first, strategic planning, wherein we will discuss about planning and the different strategies that each organization is adapting so that they could ultimately achieve their goals for their respective organization. Then we will be also discussing the concepts of the budget, the different methods of the budgeting, the different schedules and profit plans for the company, and then how the management plans their financials in order to achieve their goals and objectives for their organization. And lastly, we will be discussing on how the forecast of sales and expenses should be done by different organizations, and how this forecasting could be a helpful tool in doing their financials. So we will be targeting 5 sections to finish today, and then the rest will be continued next week, most especially these forecasting techniques. And we will also be for each section, or for each subsection, I prepared a lot of multiple choice questions. So I'm encouraging you to answer those questions, and I'm hoping also that you will participate by keying your answers in the chat box once we deal these MCQs. Okay, let's start. First, with planning. First, we should always determine how plans should be done, and then what are the importance of planning for every organization or for every business on how they are achieving their goals and objectives for the organization, how the planning contribute to the success of the company. Planning is the determination of what is to be done, and of how, when, where, and by whom it is to be done. Plans serve to direct the activities that all organizational members must undertake and successfully perform to move the organization from where it is to where it wants to be, or the accomplishment of their objectives. It should be completed before undertaking any other managerial function, and it establishes the means to reach organizational ends or objectives. So guys, planning, it is one of the most important managerial function, aside from directing, staffing, monitoring, and then controlling. So everything starts with planning. With proper planning, you will determine all the things that you should consider in doing the business, on how to face adversities or various calamities that might be experiencing, or that might be dealt in the future, so that each company should have the necessary tool on how they could counter that, and then they should prepare the necessary requirements or necessary tool in order to meet the objectives for the company. And even in the planning, it encompasses all the resources, the people, and then also the competition and how they will face it, considering the market, which is very tough already. So with careful planning or thorough planning, everything could be addressed. So there are different types of plans. So there are 4 types of plans: the strategic plans, tactical plans, operational plans, and contingency plans. The only thing that we need to do with these types of plans, we just need to differentiate how these plans are different with the other type of plans. So let's just take a look regarding with their definition. And I'm just going to tell you what are the keywords that you should remember for each plans. The first one are strategic plans or strategic plan. Referred to as involves a comprehensive look at an organization in relation to its industry, competitors, and environment. Its main purpose is to guide the company in its efforts to achieve superior performance, competitive advantage, and maximize shareholders' value. Usually, this is performed by the top management. For strategic plans, this is all. We could also say this is the long-range plan. Once the strategic plans, which is normally being prepared by the top management. under this kind of plan, it governs the overall direction of the company or the organization and how the resources can be used or can be maximized. Under the strategic plans, everything should be set up properly. They should know on how, where to invest and how to invest, or what are the resources that they should deploy or that they should use in order to meet their end objectives. Under also the strategic plans, the company or the business should prepare the necessary tool or necessary plan on how the competition could be addressed, on how the company should have an edge with the rest of the competitors in the market. So the second one, tactical plans. So tactical plans support strategic plans by translating them into specific plans relevant to distinct area of the organization. Tactical plans are concerned with the responsibility and functionality of middle-level managers to fulfill their parts of strategic plan. So tactical plans normally prepared by the middle management. These are the supporting plans for in meeting the strategic plans. So the third plan is the operational plan. So operational planning are plans for day-to-day operations. So all the lower level managers develop these plans, also called as the short-term plans. So earlier, I just mentioned that the long-range plans are the strategic plans. So opposite naman ng strategic plan are the operational plans or the short-term plans. All operational plans are focused on the specific procedures and processes that occur within the lowest levels of the organizations. When you say operational plans, these are the day-to-day operations. So ito yung mga everyday transactions that are happening with the business organization, which are being conducted by the different business units or different departments of each organization. And then the last type of plans are contingency plans. So contingency plans are preparations for the what-if situations that might occur and are used for a specific unintended event. Its main purpose is to allow a faster reaction time and to provide guidance to managers when they were faced with unexpected developments and crises. So we could say that these contingency plans are also one of the most important type of plans that every organization or every company should have. Why do we say so? Because without any contingency plan, you shouldn't continue or the business operation when there are some calamities or catastrophes that are happening around. So with better contingency planning or amidst of the different calamities or catastrophes, you will be able to continue the operations as normal. So you will be able to address all the concerns of your customers despite of these tragedies or despite of these acts not controlled by humans. Or even if controlled by humans, then you should also have some plans on how the business should continue amidst of this. So as to purpose naman, yung type of plans, there are two types as to purpose, which are single-use plans and standing plans. So let's just take the definition of single-use plans. A single-use plan in a business environment refers to plans developed for a one-time project or event that has one specific goal or objective. So single-use plan, one specific objective only. This type of plan is one of the examples of this of the single-use plan is like when you're doing a specific project or just like what do you call this when you have a possible investment or like if you're just going to purchase an additional equipment, and then this specific budget will be used only for that particular investment or for that particular purpose. So it cannot be used with the other type of plans. That's why it's called a single-use plan. So once you already use this, then it's done already. And then the standing plans are often policies, procedures, and programs developed to ensure the internal operation of a given business are operating smoothly. Standing plans are often developed once and then modified to suit the business needs as required. Examples of standing plans include the policies for employee interaction, procedures for reporting internal issues in the company, and regulations in terms of what is allowable and what is prohibited in the business. Normally, these standing plans, these are the policies and procedures that we have with our organization or within our company. I think every department or every unit has its own policies and procedures that everyone should comply. And then when it comes to HR, they have their own policies and procedures for employees, on how to hire employees, and how to evaluate employees annually when they will be receiving some bonuses or extra bonuses, or if they will be having some increments. So they should have the proper procedures to follow on how that increment should be given to that particular employee. And even for the finance department, we have a lot of procedures in place on, for example, like on how to have a proper disbursement, on how the sales are being recognized, or how the financials are being prepared, and even with the treasury yan. Lahat ng departments, they have their own policies and procedures. That's what we call standing plans. So next, strategy. The strategy are plan of actions designed to achieve long-term or overall aim. The art of planning and directing overall military operation and movements in a war or battle. So these are the strategies or the acts that organization or the top management should have in order to surpass all the challenges that the external environment might challenge each business or organization. So every organization or the business should have their own strategies depending on the nature of their businesses. Kasi yung strategy, di ba, it will vary according to the type of industry they are in. And then when making some strategies, there are a lot of things that everyone should consider. They are not they're always forward looking, meaning to say that they're always thinking in 5 to 10 years from now, what do we want to achieve? If we want to achieve that particular goal, what are the strategies that we need to prepare or that we need to undertake? So that's how the management thinks when it comes in formulating strategies for achieving the goal that they want to have in the future. So in strategy or in making strategies, there are 3 levels of strategies. The first one is the corporate, the second is the business, which comprise of the cooperative and the competitive, and the last one is the functional. So we just need to determine how these 3 differs. The first level of strategy is the corporate. Under this corporate strategies, what are the strategies that they are being formulated or what are the strategies that are being done or conducted, or what are the things that they are considering? So under this corporate strategy, they are just looking for the possible opportunities and including the geographical expansion, mergers, acquisition, and product expansion or contraction. So it also includes defining the values of the organization, and it involves decision which industries the organization will compete in and how the units will be linked, determining how organizational resources will be allocated among the firm's business units, and determines costing of what the firm will and will not do. So to summarize this corporate level of strategy, it refers to the overall direction of the organization and management of its business operations. So, yeah. And then the second level, I think you should change that competitive into business. Because under this business strategy, the best definition of this, it determines the cooperative and competitive strategies in meeting or in sustaining the competitive advantage of the organization. So under this business level strategy, it defines how the organization competes in a given industry and how the firm creates value in that industry. So meaning to say that under the business, so there are two classifications or category of the business, the cooperative and then the competitive. So what are the difference between those two? The cooperative meaning despite of the competition that are happening around the business or outside the business, then they should collaborate, meaning to say cooperative, they should collaborate with the with other with other business partners, which could either be through joint venture, licensing, or through franchising. And then the other one is the competitive. So meaning to say competitive, it in order to address the competitiveness in the market, or there are a lot of competitors inside the market, how the company or the business should strategize, or how this company will become victorious amidst of the competition. So maybe they could just focus on how they will adjust their cost, or maybe they could adapt. There will be the leaders when it comes to the costing, or maybe they should develop some products that should be with have specialized designs that the public should avail or should patronize, or they should develop innovative products so that they could have an edge. They could have an edge in the market. Yan. Yun yung some of the strategies that under the business level of strategy. And then the last one is the functional. So functional, it determines on how the company should maximize its resources, on how the company should deploy the resources to meet their objectives and goals, on how they will address their day-to-day operations. So it includes the plans and objective for the marketing, finance, research, technology, operation, and other business functions. Focuses on coordination among the business function. So by defining activities process to help the organization maximize its competitive position and clarify how the organization functions fit with its competitive strategy. So the ultimate goal of these levels of strategy, they should always be coherent and consistent with the ultimate goal of each business or organization. So they should always think for the company as a whole rather than for the respective departments or units. So guys, again, we have 3 levels of strategy that each company, business, or organization is adapting. They should the corporate level strategy, business level strategy, and then the functional level strategy. So now we will be proceeding with the strategic planning process. So we just need also to know on how the strategic planning is being conducted. So there's a process that every company is following or is adopting. So let's define the first strategic planning process is defining the company's vision, mission, goals, and objectives. It is necessary to have this at the first stage because we cannot put all the strategies in the table without knowing your vision, your mission, and then your ultimate goals and objectives. Kasi once you develop or once you have the business, you should always have the vision. You should always have an ultimate goal or objective at the end. So the vision statement, its guiding image of future success and achievement articulated in terms of the organization's contribution to society. It should be compelling and unites everyone in the organization. It should always be forward-looking, and it's always visioned in a long-term goal or in the long-term planning. The mission statement, it provides the compass for an organization. So it's always answer the question, why are we in the business? What do we want to do? What do we want that our customers, our clients have? So it should accurate, easily understood, motivating, and transferable into action. Mission statement provides a clear statement about how the organization will work toward achieving its vision. A mission is quite narrow than the vision statement. So goals are the targets that an organization hopes to achieve in order to fulfill its mission and achieve its vision. It state the desired end result, and the benefits of that result can be strategic or tactical goals. Goals, it is the ultimate target that we want to have. Then the objectives, these are the actions or the details that we need to follow in order to meet our goals. So we should always remember that objectives should be SMART. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Sometimes during the actual examination of CMA, there are some options or there are some questions like which is the best example of objective. So by that, if you know that SMART, so you could easily pinpoint which is the example of objective. Always bear in mind the SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And sometimes some simple question in in CMA as well, you could differentiate goals from objectives. So objectives are the actions or plans in achieving the goals, and then the goals are the ultimate are the end result or the target. So the second strategic planning process is analyzing the external environment. So meaning to say, external environment, it's the outside forces of the organization. So what are those? Okay, let's see this first. It pertains to forces that shape the industry in which the company operates and the competition within that industry in order to understand the opportunities available in the firm and any threats confronting the firm that can affect in the pursuit of its mission. And by understanding this, it will enable the company to outperform from the competition. So in analyzing the external environment, you will determine the threats and the opportunities. So once you exhibited or once you analyze the threats and then the opportunities outside, then you will be able to prepare a good strategy, or you could have the thorough knowledge on how to strategize or how to counteract or how to counter different competitors in the market. And at the same time, you will realize the opportunities that you might get or that you could see when you have a thorough research or studies that you have conducted. Since competition is very tough, you should always think ahead of the other competitors. Kasi if you don't think ahead, then you will be left behind, considering yung mga businesses or the competition, parang kaliwat kanan yung mga establishment ng mga business, and then it could be a potential threats for the incumbents or for the existing businesses. So by strategizing carefully, then you will have the necessary tool to counteract these threats, and at the same time you will determine some opportunities outside. Like for example, you have 5 products that you are offering to the market, and all of a sudden there's just some sudden trends or sudden changes in the market, and then at the same time you have your best team who could innovate the products, who could develop and enhance our current products. Then you could utilize that in order to give in order to address the social trends. So what are the some of the external factors shaping organizational strategy? So legal and regulatory factors, and then market forces, industry trends, competition, technological changes, stakeholders, groups and their social concerns, globalization trends, emerging markets, and non-government organizations. Um, just take notes regarding with external factors. Kasi for sure you will encounter in CMA examination, you will determine or you will be asked what is the example of the external factors, and then it might also the IMA will prepare some question that it's quite lengthy, and then all of a sudden they will just ask what are the factors that are not within the management's discretion. So when if it's said that's not within the management discretion, so the question being asked is what will be the external factor or the the forces or the force beyond the internal environment. So yan. And then there are three generic competitive strategies under the external environment. So cost leadership strategy, differentiation strategy, and then focus strategy. So under the cost leadership strategy, the company should focus on its cost if they want to have if they wanted to be the leader when it comes to cost, since they could produce more products in greater volume with having lower cost, since they just enjoying the economies of scale when they could produce more using with a lesser cost, since they just producing more, so that kapag diba nagpo-produce na mas marami, so lesser yung cost natin and we could save more. And then differentiation strategy, when it comes to differentiation strategy, then the products or the services that the business or the organization should give to the public should be differentiated or should be unique. So regardless of the trends or regardless of the prices or the movements of the prices going on in the market, so once your product is very differentiated and unique, then it cannot be imitated easily, and then you still have an edge regardless of the entrance of investors or other businesses. The public or your customers should still choose you considering the uniqueness and the uniqueness of your product or service. Focus strategy, the firm focuses on few targets. This works best for small firms looking to avoid competing with large firms. So focus strategy, it could have two classification. It could be cost focus and differentiation focus. So once you but since di ba may focus strategy, meaning you're just limiting your access or you're limiting the targets or your ultimate market. Kung before, for an example, when you have some department stores or you have a lot of customers you're addressing to, for an example, for adult, infants, or all sexes, male, female, and upon your recent study, you have a better sales when it comes to the men fashion than rather than the women's fashion. So maybe you could select only, or you could focus merely on the men's fashion. So that's why we call that focus. So it's either cost focus or differentiation strategy. So you're just narrowing your market or your segment, or you're narrowing your target customers, because you're believing that it will have a better impact in your bottom line figures of your financial statements. So again, there are three generic competitive strategies: the cost leadership strategy, the differentiation strategy, and then the focus strategy. Since we're tackling the external environment, we're analyzing the external environment, and then considering the impact of the competition in the existing or in a particular business or organization, Michael E. Porter adapted these five forces, or he summarized these five forces. So, these five forces are rivalry among existing competitors, threat of new entrants, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and the threat of substitute products. If ever you will encounter this in your essay part or in your multiple choice question, you should always remember these five forces. You don't need to, I think you need to memorize these five forces so that you could easily remember it. But just have a note to remember these five forces. These five forces are very important in analyzing the external environment. Because when I had my semi-examination way back 2018, so I think it's 5 years ago, this is part of my essay. There is a problem, and then there are a lot of details that are being asked, and then one of the questions being asked is how these five forces have an impact, or how these five forces correlate with that particular problem. Parang gusto niya is identify itong five forces na to dun sa problem na yon. So by doing that, or by remembering these five forces, I could easily answer that question. So threat of new entrants. So we just need to evaluate or assess how this new entrants could be a threat to the incumbents or the existing. Hold on. Okay, thank you, Leo, for sharing your mnemonics for this. At least you have it, SECRETS. Okay, that's good. At least you could easily determine regarding with this kind of mnemonics, and it is up to you on how you will remember this. I'm just saying that you should remember these five forces, and then you should have not a thorough knowledge, but you should have knowledge on how you will discuss, or how you will elaborate these five forces, because by your it's self-explanatory, or even without memorizing anything, as long as you know how you will discuss this, or how you will correlate this with your business or in that particular question, then you could easily address or ace that particular question. So for the new entrants, we should assess or evaluate how could this new entrants be a threat to the incumbents. So for an example, like for barriers to entry, if the barriers to entry is very high, then it will not be a threat to the incumbents, because it is already what do you call this, assumption for the potential entrants, that if the entry or the capital requirements will be very high, and then that business doesn't have enough or sufficient capital to invest for the particular business, then he or she should disregard to enter in that particular market. So it will be a good indicator for the incumbents. And economies of scale. So economies of scale will be beneficial for the incumbents in a way that they could offer the product in a lesser price, or in a lesser price, because they could produce the particular product at a lesser cost. And then bargaining power of the buyers. When does the buyer should have a bargaining power in purchasing a merchandise, or purchasing goods, or acquiring services? So when we have, for example, let us say we are the buyers, how could we have that bargaining power? So when we have a thorough knowledge, or a knowledge regarding with the potential or list of service providers that could offer us the same product or service. If we know those particular service providers, then we could have the power to bargain the price. For example, if this service provider will offer us 10 US dollars purchasing this, and then the other will give 950 and the other is 9 and 850, if those products are the same only, or it will give us the same usage and we're not particular into something, so we will have the power to bargain on that particular price that we want to have. Because if that particular seller doesn't agree with the price that we want to take that particular service or product, then we could switch to another supplier or service provider. And it is the opposite of bargaining power of suppliers. If the suppliers does have bargaining power if he or if the company or if the service providers these service providers have a lot of access or a lot of clients. But if this supplier service provider has minimal customers or clients, then they shouldn't have that bargaining power to give the price that they wanted to be, that they want to have, because the customer or the buyer should have that bargaining power. And then the threat of substitute products. So how these substitute products could be a threat to the incumbents. Yan, as what I have mentioned earlier, if the buyer is not particular when it comes to the brand of the product, but he or she is focused only on its purpose, like for the detergents, there are a lot of detergents in the market. So they have only one purpose to use. So the product or the detergents that have the lesser price, then that's the price that the customer should adopt or should buy. So that's why it's just like this is why this is threat for the incumbents or to the incumbents. And then the last one is the rivalry among existing competitors. And if you could see regarding with the four forces, they are also interrelated or interconnected with rivalry among existing competitors. Since the competition is very tough, as what I have mentioned earlier, companies should adopt the necessary strategies on how to address or counter that. So again, the 5 forces of Michael E. Porter: the threat of new entrants, bargaining power buyers, bargaining power suppliers, threat of substitute products, and rivalry among existing competitors. You should always remember that. Next. Okay, guys, just give me a moment. I just remember this. Di ba nag-enroll na ako dito sa CPARMI regarding sa review na to. So one of the strategies that you should also do if you are certain that you will be taking your examination in the next window. I think October is the next window examination. If your goal is to pass the or to take the CMA Part 1 rather than taking both parts, mag-register na kayo sa IMA, and then magpa-schedule kayo nung kung kailan kayo mag-exam, so that you could have time to ano pa yung mga dito, kind of review na gagawin nyo, you are well prepared enough to ace your CMA Part 1. Yun. Kasi kung hindi kayo kung hindi kayo certain na October kayo mag-exam, I think September or October. I don't know if still September, October yung same window. Medyo siya, hindi kayo makakapag-focus, parang lipad yung isip nyo na para sasabihin nyo, okay, next time na lang na ganito ganyan, so tapusin ko muna. But for me, if you're not dun sa dito, if you're not aiming or goaling na mag-top dun sa examination, kasi kailangan if you want to be recognized by IMA in USA for the top 1, top 2, top 3, yung mga medal, I think for me it's better if you could just take your examination right after the review. I think you have enough time to review, to prepare yourself. Yun. Kasi ganun lang yung ginawa ko. Para at least in 10 months time, you could have your CMA credential. Yun. Ganun lang tayo kasi medyo mahirap kapag hindi kayo certain sa ginagawa nyo. Kailangan you should be certain and always bear in your mind that you will be taking this CMA examination kasi andito na kayo. Don't waste your time. Yun lang. Kasi based on our experiences sa aming mga reviewees, hindi nila kagad tinitig yung exam kasi tinatabad na sila and they don't have the courage to pursue CMA kasi nga wala daw time, conflict sa work. So I think you should sacrifice, you should learn how to sacrifice and you should learn how to manage your time. Yan. It's always time management naman. Always give at least 1 or 1.5 hours per day. Yan. If you're commuting or you're not driving, while going to office, mag-try kayo ng mga multiple choice questions na pwede nyong masagutan yon. It will be a very helpful tool in grasping the knowledge for CMA, what do you call this? In preparing CMA. Yun. Basta sipagan nyo lang. Kapag masipag kayo, naiintindihan yung mga discussions and then nasasagutan nyo naman ng tama yung multiple questions, I think there's no reason behind kung bakit hindi kayo papasa ng CMA. Sipag lang at saka talaga tiyaga. And then during weekend, kung 2 days kayong off, Saturday, Sunday, i-allot nyo na yung 1 day sa review. Yun, the whole day. Wag muna kayong lumabas. Within 10 months lang yan. And right after that, okay na. Basta naipasa nyo na, I think there are a lot of opportunities that are awaiting for you outside. And mas maganda na yung bargaining power nyo since you have some credentials internationally. And then considering that CMA is widely recognized na siya, and then I think they're just working to tie up with different countries na talaga. Yes. So I think they are very active on that. Kapit lang. And then, mas okay din if ever kung may group chat kayo dito sa if you have some questions, then you could raise your question on that particular group. Then maybe somehow, may mga co-reviewers din kayo na pwedeng magbigay ng advice, or if you have some questions regarding that particular problem, and then I think maybe they could also help you. And then, if not, then maybe you could also tell that to Sir na, okay sir, may ganito kami, address na lang po doon sa lecturer. So, and then we will get back to you on that. So, yun. Okay, so let's proceed. Just bigla ko lang naisip siya. And maybe, na rin naman to, na-discuss siguro ng mga co-reviewers ko before. Yan. So, let's continue. So, I think that's the end of analyzing the external environment. Then we will go with the next step in strategic planning process with analyzing the internal environment. So its main purpose is to identify strengths, weaknesses, and limitations within the organization. So which is internal environment, it's something to do within the organization or within the business. So by analyzing the external environment, we will be able to know what are the strengths and weaknesses of our own organization. So some of the factors that are necessary in assessing or in conducting assessment internally are the resources, the skills, and then the processes. The resources are the factors that enable a company to create a value for its customers. And the skills are the for company's ability to coordinate its resources and to put them to productive use in the processes. Cycle time and capacity should need to be considered as well. So when we are analyzing the internal environment, once we discovered the weaknesses that our organization has, we're not going to tolerate that. We're going to address that weakness so that weakness could be a strength too. Or if we all discover that weakness, then maybe we could try or we need to address to lessen that or totally eliminate that. And then once we find the strength, then we could just find on how we can work on this so that we could develop something new so that it could have a better impact for the company and then for the society too. And then the fourth strategic planning process is formulating the strategies or by conducting the SWOT analysis. So SWOT analysis stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. This is a combination of analyzing the external and the internal environment. Its main purpose is to optimize the organization's strengths and correct or minimize its weaknesses in order to take advantage of external opportunities while countering external threats. So again, strengths, the definitions, the weaknesses, opportunities, and then threats. I'm not going to go too much on this since we already discussed the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, and then the fifth one is developing and implementing the chosen strategy. So after conducting that SWOT analysis, we will now develop and implement what kind of strategies that we need to adapt or that we need to execute. So strategy formulation, the crafting of combination strategies, and picking out the best one to achieve the organizational goals and objectives and thereby reaching the vision of the organization. Strategy formulation, crafting of the strategies, and then strategy implementation is the execution of the strategies or the strategies that we have chosen. And the organizational design, it deals with the different methods and the people who are to be part of doing the process, and also the kind of control or the control systems that the company should adapt in adapting that kind of strategies. So there are three elements of that organizational design. You don't need to memorize this. The only thing that we need to know is how this on how we should define or what's the definition of these three elements. But you don't need to memorize. So organizational structure, control systems, and organizational culture. So once organizational structure is something to do like an organization chart where you can know who are the people who will be working on this particular processes or particular procedures. And then for the control systems, what are the systems that should be placed in monitoring or in controlling those different activities or processes so that we could achieve the strategy that we have formulated or the strategy that we have chosen. And the organizational culture, it defines with the behavior, the beliefs and norms within that organization and how the people should behave on the entire organization. So what are the other planning tools and techniques under the strategic planning? So situational analysis. So definition again, maybe in CMA, you will be asked, maybe it might define, it might state the definition and then ipifigure out nyo lang kung ano ba yung dinidefine niya. So like situation analysis, it's an analytical tool or it's an analysis which is being used in assessing the external and internal environment, both environment, internal and external. So what are the different tools or methods under the situational analysis? The SWOT analysis, the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, the Porter's 5 analysis or the Porter's 5 forces, and then the 5C analysis. Yung 5C analysis, something to do with the company, competitors, customers, collaborators, and then the climate or the TEST. And then the other tool is the scenario planning. The scenario planning, also called the scenario thinking or scenario analysis, which is designed to assist the organization in developing flexible strategic plans. Its main focus is to assess opportunities and threats. So meaning to say, opportunities and threats, it's something to do with external environment. So scenario planning is a tool designed in analyzing the external environment. So like the STEEP, itong mnemonics niya, STEEP, S-T-E-E-P, the first letter word, social, technological, economic, environmental, and political. And the other one, the competitive analysis. So competitive analysis is something to do with the competitors and how you will have an edge regarding with your competitors and how you will counter the challenges that your customers, that your competitors have. And then the BCG Growth Share Matrix or the Boston Consulting Group, because this is the matrix that is being designed and developed by a group, which is the Boston Consulting Group in 1970 in order to determine the life cycle of a particular product or segment. So in order to better understand this BCG Growth Share Matrix, you could see this matrix that we have 4 quadrants. In each 4 quadrant, there are some figures like question mark, star, cash cow, and then dog. You will also be observed that for each quadrants at the top, like high and then low quadrants. Yan, and then relative market share at the top corner, and then the market growth rate or the cash usage at the left corner. So guys, please remember this matrix. Check nyo dyan, i-remember nyo kung alin dyan yung under ng low and then under ng high. Sometimes IMA will get some 2 or 3 questions from this matrix. Kung halimbawa, ang tatanong niya, which SBU or strategic business unit that has high cash generation but low cash usage or cash or market growth rate. So it will be cash cow. So, yeah. So I think isa-isahin natin siya. So let's stay first regarding with the relative market share of cash generation. So meaning relative market share cash generation is regarding with the inflows of cash for the company or for the particular business or unit. It is the income or the profit that you will company or that business or that particular business unit is earning. And then the market growth rate or the cash usage is the type of investment or the cash outflows that you need to put or invest in order this segment or this SBU sustain so that it could generate cash for the company or it could lead to higher market share. Let's say for the first quadrant, we're going from right to left. So question mark. There is low cash generation and then there is cash usage. We could conclude that this is in the early cycle of the stage, wherein you are investing a lot, you're doing a lot of research, studies, or development for that particular product or in development of this product or service. So you're on the initial stage, but you have some cash that are being generated, but it's not enough or sufficient to outweigh the cost that you have invested. So dito mas malaki yung expenses mo over the inflows. Outflows are greater than the inflows. And then the star, in a high cash generation, but still has high cash usage or market growth rate. So meaning to say, it's already penetrated the market. That particular product or service already penetrated the market. But without sustaining it or doing some advertisements or ads or promoting the or promotions or constant development or research, then this product will go to question mark or maybe it go to dog. Since nasa second stage pa lang siya, so we have cash generation already, but it will not be sufficient. It will not prolong its success if it will not be maintained yung as what I have mentioned earlier, yung research and then development being conducted for that particular product or service. So dapat tuloy-tuloy pa rin siya. And then the cash cow naman, ito yung opposite nung sa star. It already have a lot of cash being generated and the cash usage is very low. So meaning to say that this product, that this particular business unit or product or service that the company has, it's already have the brand or the or loyalty coming from the customers. They already have in the market, they already get a fair share in the market. So they have a lot of cash generated or there are a lot of inflows already. And then they don't need more cash to fund for this, or they don't need more fund to invest in ads or in promoting or in promotion kasi nga well-established na yung quadrant na to or yung particular business unit or SB. So since it has a lot of cash or idle cash, then this idle cash, rather than staying on the bank account or on the company, they could invest this into another particular business unit or another new product or service, or maybe they could deploy these funds for another investment opportunities that could give to the company or to the business an extra money or extra inflows. And then the last quadrant is the dog. You can see that there's a low cash generation and then a low cash usage. So it seems that it's just established, and then right after establishing this or right after producing product or service, then it is not being patronized or hindi siya tinatanggap or binibili ng customers or ng public, and then the company or the business doesn't want to deploy additional extra costings. Alam naman nila na parang wala silang kikitain. But on the other way around, this dog could also have a potential opportunity once there will be some investor or someone who could buy for this product or service or SB or strategic business unit. So yun yung yun yung purpose why this quadrant is established. So just like a standby, and then once that opportunity arise, then dun ang pasok niya, pwede niyang ibenta or pwede niyang i-match with the other opportunities outside. So ito yung BCG growth share matrix that you should remember. Yan, kung nasa quadrant, yung question mark, star, cash cow, and then the dog. And then you should also remember the other term for cash generation, which is relative market share, and then cash usage, the market growth rate. Break tayo doon. And then I think let's proceed with the multiple choice questions. Let's try answering these questions. I think there are 15 questions. Okay. If you have your answers, maybe you could just key in your answers in our chat box. Okay. First, when you're dealing with with the problems, always read the question first. Which one of the following is subject to the least control by the management of Cerawell or Cerawell in the current fiscal year? So, what is being asked here? Least controlled by the management. So, meaning to say, which least controlled by the management is something to do with the forces or the factors outside the management, or it's something to do with external environment. So, Cerawell Products Company is a ceramics manufacturer that is facing several challenges in its operations due to economic and industry conditions. The company is currently preparing its annual plan and budget. So, among the four given choices, or among the four mentioned choices, what do you think is the least controlled by the management? Is it A, B, C, or D? New machine that was purchased this year that helped reduce Cerawell's unfavorable labor efficiency variances. Competitors achieve an expected technological breakthrough, thus giving them a significant quality advantage and has caused Cerawell to lose market share. Or vendors have asked the contract price for the goods they supply to Cerawell be renegotiated and adjusted for inflation, and experienced employees have decided to terminate their employment with Cerawell and go to work for the competition. What do you think, guys? Alin dito yung least controlled by the management? Sige nga. Don't be afraid in sharing your answers, guys. How about the others? Okay, that's right. It's the competitor, and then the rest, there's some everything should be controlled by the management except letter D, since it is a competitor. It's outside the management already, or outside the business. Second, which of the following statements is true concerning situational analysis if it is used in strategic planning? So we know the situational analysis is one of the tools is one of the tools designed for strategic planning. So is it situational analysis used in analyzing and organizing internal environment but not external environment? Situational analysis used to analyze an organization external environment but not its internal environment? Or C, situational analysis used to analyze an organization external and internal environment? Or D, situational analysis used to analyze specific situation affecting an organization? So we've discussed this. And the correct answer is letter C. When it is situational analysis, both internal and external. But if it is scenario thinking or scenario analysis, then that would be external environment only. Just remember that. Next. Which of the following statements concerning a successful strategic plan is incorrect? Ito. Is it A? A successful strategic plan helps an organization achieve its long-term goals and objectives. So we could say that it's true. Successful strategic plan has well-defined goals consistent with the organization mission. Yes, that's true. Letter C. A successful strategic plan includes objectives that provide the details or action needed to achieve goals. A successful strategic plan includes objectives that provide the details or actions needed to achieve goals. So I think it's correct, right? Kasi diba, as what we have discussed earlier, objectives are the details or actions needed in accomplishing the target, which is the goal. And then the objective should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So let's see yung letter D, kung false siya. A successful strategic plan includes goals that provide the details or action needed to achieve objectives. So yon, letter D is incorrect. Why? Kasi yung goals and objectives nag-interchange yung definition. In letter C, yung right, and then the letter D is wrong. So for number 3, the correct answer is letter D. Okay, number 4. Which of the following statements is incorrect concerning scenario planning, also called scenario thinking or scenario analysis as it used in strategic planning? Hindi nga. So I think diniscuss ko to kanina, question number 2. Diba, scenario thinking or scenario analysis, it is designed in assessing opportunities and threats. And then opportunities and threats, something to do with external environment. So yun yung mga guys, mga sinasabi ko, yung mga keywords na dapat natin tatandaan. Kapag internal environment, SW, strengths and weaknesses, and then external environment, OT, opportunities and threats. It's incorrect. For number 4, the correct answer is letter D. Kasi incorrect, di ba? Scenario planning can be used to discover ways to deal with strengths and weaknesses in its internal environment. Ang scenario planning, again, is being used for analyzing external environment, which is for opportunities and threats. Okay. Number 5. Which of the following is not an internal factor that should be analyzed during the strategic planning process? Not an internal factor. If it's not an internal factor, then it should be external factor. So among these choices, which should be the correct answer? Is it A, the ability of the research and development personnel to develop a new product? So research and development is something to do internally. So this is incorrect. Letter B, the ability of workers to operate a new generation manufacturing equipment. Ability of workers, they are one of the most important resources of the company or the business, so is an internal factor. So letter B is incorrect. Letter C, a reduction in expected economic growth in markets where a company operates. So economic growth, is it within the organization or within the business? No, it's outside the business. So this letter C is the correct answer. But let's see letter D. The ability of a manufacturing company to reduce waste such that selling prices can be reduced. So ability of manufacturing company is something to do within the organization or within the business. So the correct answer for number 5 is letter C. Every one of you got the correct answer. Okay, next. So I'm encouraging other participants or other reviewees to participate in our MCQ so that we could easily assess ourselves if we understand or if we understood yung previous slides na meron tayo. Kasi ang goal ko dito, discussion first and then i-adapt natin dun sa multiple choice question. Kasi mas mabilis yun, mas mabilis na assessment siya kung naiintindihan ba natin siya or hindi. Okay, number 6. Which of the following is a possible course of action under strategy? Possible course of action. Tamara Incorporated is the market leader in desktop manufacturing. The company's success is driven by its highly skilled product development team, which has been creating path-breaking design stars at a premium price. So, di ba, ito yung something to do with the SWOT analysis, no? So, meaning to say, the highly skilled product development team, so we could consider that this is the strength of the company. So, strength or the S. However, the demand for desktops is declining as mobile technology is becoming increasingly popular. In order to address this threat, Tamara's managers have conducted a SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and have decided to use an SO, opportunity strategy. So, we need to say SO, strength, and opportunity. So, combination ng strength ng internal and external. So, question is, which of the following is a possible course of action under strategy? So, among the 4 choices below, alin dito yung nag-exhibit ng SO strategy? Let's see. Is it A, the increase of cost of Tamar's products to further differentiate its products from those of the competition? C, reduce the cost of Tamar's products to levels lower than those of laptops and tablets. Letter C, enhance the company's brand image through promotions to lure customers back to desktops. Or D, use the company's product development team to create innovative new mobile technology. So, alin dyan yung SO? So, the correct answer is letter D. Kasi di ba strength yung product development team ni Tamara, and then yung opportunity is regarding with mobile technology. So yun yung opportunity na determine dito sa problem na to. So by using the company's product development team to create innovative new mobile technology is the best course of action that Tamara Incorporated should adopt. Which of the following is an internal factor that should be analyzed during the strategic planning process? A greater number of political leaders calling for an increase in tariffs on imported goods, the availability of high-speed wireless access and customers' ability to access your product, a major competitor going out of the business, or the ability of a tax return company to prepare returns that are error-free and on time. So among those choices, or among these choices, which is the internal factor? So the correct answer is letter D. The ability of a tax return company to prepare returns that are error-free and on time. This is an internal factor because this is being done within the management. Okay. Which of the following statements is true concerning the Porter's 5 forces industry analysis? So ano ba yung mga 5 forces na yon? The correct answer is letter A. Porter's 5 forces industry analysis used to better understand the threats posed by an organization, competitors, customers, and suppliers. Kasi kung mapapansin nyo doon sa B, C, and D choices, may nakalagay doon sa dulo na but it's not suppliers, but not its customers, and but not its competitors. But should be competitors, customers, and suppliers. Okay? 9. Ito. In the Boston Consulting Group BCG Growth Share Matrix, which strategic business units are strong competitors in high growth markets but usually have modest net cash flow? Competitors in high growth markets. So growth market is something to do with cash usage. High. And then usually have modest net cash flow. Strong competitors in high growth markets is a high, it could be star, and then usually have modest net cash flow, modest. Okay, let's see what's your answer. Oh, it will not be cash cow. Let's see. I think it's star. Star is a strong competitor in a high growth industry. It is profitable but need large amount of cash for expansion, R&D, and meeting competitors' attacks. Okay, next, which factor increases the threat of entry into an industry? Yan. So, kailan threat yung mga entrants sa industry or sa incumbents? Is it A, economies of skill are significant? An industry leader may against a new entrant, capital requirements are high, or exit barriers are low. Kasi if economies of scale are significant, industry little may retaliate against a new entrant, capital requirements are high, so A, B, and C are favorable for the incumbents. So it will not impose any threats to the incumbents. So the answer for number 10 is letter D. Exit barriers are low. Yes, that's right. It's letter D. And another question from Boston Consulting Group. A strategic business unit, SBU, has a low relative market share. So, ano yung relative market share? Low. And a high market growth rate. According to the portfolio model for competitive analysis created by the BCG, the SBU is considered A. Relative market share, low. So, ano ba yung nasa low ng market share? It's either dog or question mark lang. Pero ano nasa high market growth rate? It should be star or hash cow. Question mark or question mark or star. So it would be letter C. It will be letter C. Question mark. Yeah. And what type of plan is formulated at the highest levels of management, takes the broadest view of the company and its environment, is the least quantifiable, and determines the future nature of the firm, its products, and its customers? The correct answer is letter B, strategic plan. Analyzing a company's technological capabilities, employee skills, and sales performance will provide. Analyzing a company's technological capabilities, employee skills, and sales team performance will provide internal factors identifying the company's strengths and weaknesses, or external factors identifying the company's strengths and weaknesses, or internal factors identifying the company's strengths and opportunities, or external factors identifying the company's strengths and threats. So, which is the correct one? Yes, that's right. The correct answer is letter A, internal factors that identify the company's strengths and weaknesses. Number 14. Strategic analysis ordinarily excludes the. Strategy is a broad term that usually means the selection of overall objectives. So is it A, forms of organizational structure that would best serve the entity? B, best ways to invest in research, design, production, distribution, marketing, and admin activities? Trends that will affect the entity's markets, or the target products mix and production schedule to be maintained during the year? So this is something to do with strategy, strategic planning, or strategies. Yes, you are right, Leo. Target products mix and production schedule to be maintained during that year because it's something to do with operational planning or operations. Intensity of competition is usually influenced by all of the following except. Intensity of competition is usually influenced by all of the following except. Is it the organizational mission statement, the number and diversity of competitors in the market, existence of barriers to exit, or the growth rate of the market? Yes, it's letter A, the organizational mission statement. It will not be B, C, and D. Competition can be affected by this. Okay, I think this is the last question for this. And then multiple choice questions to be continued. Okay, let's go with the next subsection, which is about budgeting concepts, or some terminologies that we will be encountering in the next sections. Okay, proceed. Budgets. So I think everyone will be. I think everyone is familiar on how the budgets are being conducted or how budgets are being done, the different terminologies or concepts behind budgets. I think every one of you knows this very well. So maybe we could have just a faster discussion about this. I think because everyone could adapt and grasp about what budgets are, what budget is, what are the importance of the budget, the planning, on how what is the budgeting cycle, on how the normal uh, time that the budgets are being prepared. So budgets is an operational plan and control tool for an entity that identifies the resources and commitments needed to achieve the entity's goals over time period. So I think I think that budget very is an important tool so that we could determine how much amount could be deployed in that particular research or particular product or service, how much should be given to uh, to the office and admin expenses, including the salaries or the payroll, or some other incidental expenses, office expenses, supplies expenses. So I think everything should be budgeted in a way that it could also be a control tool so that we could minimize the potential losses or expenses that might not be accounted. So budgeting is an undertaking the steps involving in preparing a budget. And then budgetary control is a process for managers to set financial and performance goals with budgets, compare the actual results, and adjust performance as it is needed. No? As what I have mentioned earlier, that the budget is considered as one of the control, is one of the tools, is one of the control tools in a way that we could perform variance analysis. We could assess the difference between the actual result with the actual results and then the budgeted figures, and then we could come up why there's some differences or gap between the two, and then from there we could pinpoint and address that gaps. And then the pro forma statement is a budgeted financial statement based on historical documents and appropriate forecasting techniques that adjusted for events as if they had occurred. So there are just 6 budget cycle key considerations. Again, you don't need to memorize this for the sake of discussing the budgeting or the budget concept. We just need to know this. So the create master budget and the sub budgets. So you know that the master budget is the combination of all the budgets, and then it could start always from the sales budget, from the bottom line budgets in the P&L statements, like sales budget, production budgets, purchases budget, direct labor budget, factor overhead budget, selling and admin budgets. And then once you're doing the budgets, you should always have the schedules that will support your master's budgets, because you couldn't create a budget without any supporting schedules. You should always near to facts, or it should always be yung malapit sa katotohanan. Yan. And then get managers buy-in. So when doing the budget, it's better if the managers who deployed in the particular division or unit will create the budget, because they have the knowledge or the thorough knowledge about how the operation goes under their supervision. Because without the managers buy-in, if they will not be participating in doing the budget, I don't think that the budget will be good enough or will be a better version, since maybe the cost or the figures that will be visible on that particular budget will not be accurate. Because as long the budget will be more accurate and will be near to accurateness once the budgets are being conducted by the division managers or by the department heads. Analyze current performance versus expectations. It is based like they call this the variance analysis that we could have, wherein we should determine first the budgeted level, and right after 3 months or quarterly or monthly, it depends on how the company works. You should perform that variance analysis from wherein you could just determine what happened, what went wrong. By doing that, you could see some gaps or deficiencies, or maybe you could also figure out why there's a sudden spike or a sudden decrease on that particular line item. So once you discover that, you should address it immediately, and how you could counter that, or how you could eliminate that, or how you could address it in the next budget so that you could not encounter the same thing. Most especially if there are some figures or some expenses or minor breakthrough or major breakthroughs or major special projects that you have in account, but all of a sudden it came unexpectedly. So para ma-lesson yun, what are the precautionary measures that everyone, or most especially the finance, should do? And then examine the variations, and then take corrective action as what I have discussed, and then obtain feedback and revise plan. So those are some of the key considerations when you are doing the budgeting. So some of the reasons for budgeting: planning, communication, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation. So when you say planning the budget, since you're doing the budget, or at the same time you're doing plans, you are planning in a way that you are considering a lot of factors, a lot of items, or a lot of figures coming from different units, and then you will just be consolidating that in one group's budget. And then you should analyze all the sometimes it depends on how the budgets are being done, kasi yung ibang depende kasi sa size din ng mga industry or nung business size yung paggawa ng budget, kasi minsan each department will send their budget for that particular year to finance, and then the finance will consolidate it, and the finance will present that to the CFO, and then the CFO will present that to the board for the final approval. And then communication and coordination, there should always a proper coordination and communication among all the groups involved in budgeting, because every division has their own respective budgets. They should prepare their own budgets, and then by that, the supervisor or the department head should be the one to connect or to coordinate with their subheads, or even the subheads will coordinate onto their subordinates on how they could develop a better version of budget, or an accurate or the figures should be accurately presented. And then monitoring, as what I have mentioned earlier, all the figures that have been stated in the budgeted should always be monitored by doing that variance analysis constantly. I think most or majority of the companies, there is a manual variance analysis being conducted, so that they could easily determine the possible variances or gaps. And then right after is the evaluation. The evaluation, normally some of the companies, they could assess or they could determine the performance of each departments by using this analysis, in a way that if they could have a positive figures, or if they could have a good outcome or good results, then they will be incentivized based on their performance. So budget participants, again, it will be depending on the size of the company. So this budget participants are based on multinational companies or large companies. There are board of directors, the top management, the budget committee, the middle and lower management, budget coordinator, and even they will be needing some process experts in conducting the budget, most especially if you're in a manufacturing sector, when there should be a participation of the experts, like in having the standard cost to be in determining the standard cost. Budgeting concepts. So what are the budgeting steps? There's always a proposal, then the negotiation, review and approval, and then if there will be some revisions, then it should be conducted and should be implemented, and it should be amended and implemented right away. So what are the characteristics of successful budgeting? So again, the budget should always be aligned with the corporate strategy. So the budget should not be consistent or coherent with the strategies being formulated or being adopted by the top management. It should always be aligned, or else the ultimate goal of the organization as a whole will not be achieved. So it will not be on the same road as what the top management wants. And then it should be kept separate from, but should flow from strategic planning and forecasting process. And budgets use the forward-looking information from more comprehensive forecast. So I think every one of us knows on how to make the budget, on how the budget should be accurately presented. We're giving only the basis based on the historical figures or historical facts, but we should always determine the impact of some trends or some issues that the market has, or where our company or the business operates. So we should always be forward looking. We should always stay ahead, and we should always forecast things that a normal person couldn't see. And then it should be used to alleviate potential bottlenecks and to allocate resources to those areas to use the funds most efficiently, effectively. That's what the saying goes, that we have limited resources or scarce resources. So due to limitation of this, or due to scarcity, we just need to deploy the resources where we could get some benefits, or where we could derive more. So we could just deploy those funds or resources to those products or services that the company should be benefited. So the company should be wiser enough regarding with the allocation of their resources. It must contain technically correct and reasonably accurate numbers and facts. So, diba, when we say that budget is also budget estimates, but in reality, it should always near to perfection, or it should always near to real figures. It is just like a reflection of what will be the amount that we will be incurring in the future. If there will be some disparity, we should be accounted for it, and unless there will be some unexpected expenses or projects that are being undertaken, or that the company undertook na hindi natin nakasama dun sa budget, and I think it's fine as long as hindi kagad siya nakita on that particular period na ginawa yung budget. But being finance professional or a budget experts, we should not allow that to happen again. So we should establish some precautionary measures on that. And then management, including the top management, must fully endorse the budget and accept responsibility for reaching the budget goals. And then employees must consider the budget as a planning, communication, coordinating tool, and not as a pressure or blame device. So it's a planning, communication, well-coordinating tool, wherein all the employees should participate in doing the budget, so that they could have the kind of mentality that they are well appreciated, that they truly belong with that company when their inputs are being valued, or where their inputs are being gotten or they are being asked regarding what will be their inputs regarding with the budgets that we will be having for that particular year. So once that you're being asked as an employee, you will feel that you are valued enough. And then the budget must be characterized as a motivational tool to employees work toward organizational goals. Yes, that's correct. So that once the budget is properly organized or properly implemented or presented, then this should serve as a motivational tool for all the employees so that they could put the efforts that the company should expect from them so that they could meet their goal. So because at the end of the day, those employees will be the one to be benefited, most especially if the companies are incentivizing or giving some incentives to those employees who performed well during that particular year. And then the budget must be seen as an internal control device. So again, internal control device that by comparing the actual results by the budgeted figures. And then sales and admin budgets need to be detailed in order that the key assumptions can better be understood. Yan, so yung ating mga sales and admin budgets, we should always have some schedules or supporting schedules to as a proof that we came up with that particular or specific figures. This is well supported so that if there will be some questions or additional questions regarding how did you come up with that budget, we have enough documents or we have sufficient evidence to support that. Because it's not like we're going to prepare sales and admin budget should be 10% of the sales. So how come that we came up with that we come up with that 10% without showing the breakdown of the sales and admin budget? So it's very difficult to pinpoint. So it's always better to have that breakdown rather than pinpointing or having a certain percentage which is always based on sales. But for some small companies, they are doing that since I think sometimes they're acknowledging it, and then it will not have a material impact with that figures for the overall of the company. And then a higher authority plan that the team that developed the budget must review and approve the budget. That's a correct statement since their authority should have the final verdict on the particular budget, and they could easily pinpoint as well if there are some lapses or if there are some budgets or figure are items that are incorporated which shouldn't be. So the budget period is the length of time appropriate for the purpose of the budget. So there are different methods of developing the budget. So there are three: participative budget, authoritative budget, and then consultative budget. So guys, please remember this: PAC, participative, P stands for participative, authoritative stands for A, and then A stands for authoritative, and consultative stands for CPAC. So participative budget is developed from bottom up. So meaning to say, the budgets are being prepared from the bottom going to the top management. It's not being imposed budget, which is an opposed of the authoritative budget, which is coming from the top to the down management. So meaning to say that the top management instructs the divisional heads to have this budget. The budget is always the budget assigned to the respective departments or division heads. And then consultative budget, meaning to say consultative is a combination of the authoritative and participative budget and participative budget development methods. So let's have some discussions about these methods. So participative budget development. So some of the benefits of the participative, it's a good communication device. How do we say so? That's a good communication device. Since participative budget starts from the bottom, then these division heads should have the ability or should communicate with his or her subordinates to help in creating the budget for their particular group or for their particular unit. So by that time, there is a well or good communication between them so that they could have an accurate figures to be presented on their budget. And then it is more likely to gain employee commitment to fulfill budgetary goals. So once they're fully committed and once they are being heard with their inputs, then they will be motivated enough to meet their goals or their department goals. And it is more likely to be achievable because it was developed with input from the people responsible for achieving it. So aside from the benefits, there will be some con of the participative budget development. So first, it can lead to budget targets that are easy to achieve. So there is some manipulation regarding with the figures that they will be presented since they are being narrow-minded. So they wanted to have figures that will be beneficial for them. So dito nangyari yung budgetary slack. So what is budgetary slack? Budgetary slack, it is the practice of underestimating planned revenues and overestimating planned costs to make the overall budgeted profit more achievable. So manipulation of the figures. So we know that I know for a fact that we know how to manipulate figures, but it shouldn't be in that way. At the end of the day, you should always think, or each department should think, the ultimate goal of the company. It should always be consistent or coherent with the developed strategies of the top management. And then integrating corporate strategic plans into budget can be more difficult when it has a bottom-up process. Kasi nga, since they have their own targets, they have their own budgets to meet, so sometimes most of the times, they will find ways on how to look more profitable or to look more achievable for them. So may minsan nakakalimutan nila na by trying to achieve their ultimate targets, so nakakalimutan na nga nila yung main purpose, which is yung kailangan palaging iniisip nila yung company as a whole rather than for their individual team or rather than for their respective departments only. And it is more time consuming because lower level managers and employees need to meet and negotiate their budget. Yes, that's right. Considering that the budget starts from the bottom, then there are a lot of people getting involved in preparation of the budget. So it will consume much of the time rather than with the authoritative budget. They have very limited time to impose that. So ito, the second budgeting method is the authoritative budget development. Authoritative budget development. So what are the benefits? It gives senior management better control over the decision-making process of participative budgeting. Since they are the one who made the budget, then it will be easier for them to monitor, and they're pretty sure that will be consistent with the strategies that have been adopted. It places more emphasis on the achievement of the strategic plans developed by the top management. And then it can be done more rapidly with greater flexibility than participative budgeting because it eliminates the need to meet with double managers to negotiate their budget. So it is much faster than the participative budget due to limited number of people involved in preparation of the budget. And then budgetary slack is not a problem because if the management or the top management did not get any information coming from the division or something in preparation of the budget, then they're pretty sure, they're very confident that there will be no budgetary slack. And then limitations. Because lower level managers and employees have no input in the budget development process, they will usually have less commitment to the budget and be less accepting on it. And then people are likely to resent being given orders, and moral problem may result. Its objectives may not be practical or possible to achieve because it does not take into account existing limitations that senior management may not be aware of, and communication between senior management and lower level management employees is reduced with this budget method. So, limitations ng authoritative budgets, we could also say that if the budgets are not being prepared by the right people, then this budget will not be accurate since these people doesn't have the knowledge enough on how the business or the operation goes. And then there will also be some resentment coming from these managers of the divisions, wherein they have the full access on full access or the full knowledge on how the operation goes, but they haven't heard their inputs or insights in budget preparation, and then they will not be motivated as well, since if they already have that budget, or how could we move or how could we use that? If, for example, based on their assessment, they should have a 1.5 M and then 500,000 only has been allotted for them. So how could they meet their targets if that particular budget is only been given to them? So there's no way to work on that. So there will be they will be demotivated. Again, so it's better if all the budget will have the full participation of those persons involved in the operation. So the consultative budget, so it's combination of the authoritative and then the participative. Senior management's strategic plans are integrated into budget, and budgetary slack is not a problem. So same as with the authoritative, that the budgetary slack will not be a problem. So if in a CMA examination you will be asked which type of method where the budgetary slack is present, so you should say that is in the participative budgeting. The amount time required to develop consultative budgets is less than the time required for participative budget. If lower level managers see the input they provide incorporated into the final budget, they may be nearly accepting and committed to the budgets they would have been had been developed participatively. So it's the same benefit that they could derive once they adopted the participative budgeting. So some of the limitations of consultative budget: the amount of time required to develop consultative budgets is greater than the time required for an authoritative budget. So again, the time frame or the time allotted in doing the budget compared with authoritative budgeting. So it's much time consuming compared with the authoritative. Lower level managers will be more resentful if their inputs have been disregarded. So budgeting another concept again is the responsibility center. So I think responsibility center, the responsibility accounting has been discussed to you in section 3, but for the sake only of the budgeting concept, it will be tackled only their definition of terms. So responsibility center is an organizational unit headed by a manager who is responsible for its activities and result. And then I think there are 3 centers: investment center, the profit center, and the cost center. So take note that you should know how to differentiate those cost centers. Responsibility accounting, this is the type of accounting that is being adopted or conducted in by these responsibility centers. It involves gathering and reporting revenues and cost areas of responsibility. And then the controllable costs, these are the costs that are being controlled or has the influence by the manager. And then the uncontrollable costs, these are the costs that the manager does have the power or authority to influence. So you should also determine what's the difference between the controllable costs and the non-controllable costs. What are the costs that are being controlled and what are the costs that cannot be controlled? And then other concepts, the standard cost. So I think every one of you are familiar regarding with this concepts or with these terminologies. So standard costs are the estimated manufacturing costs for direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead that are predetermined or estimated as they would occur under the conditions in the budget. So We will use it for the entirety when you are doing the budget that we set, or the company should have set that standard cost, particularly for materials, for labor, and then the overhead, which could be either fixed or variable. The standard input is the quantity of input required to produce 1 unit of output. And then the standard price, the standard price is the amount of price that a person or the company should pay in exchange of the service or product. Standard direct material cost per unit of output is the standard material input allowed for 1 unit output multiplied by the standard price per unit of the direct material output. And the direct labor cost naman is the standard direct labor hours allowed for 1 unit of output multiplied by the standard price per direct labor hour. So all of these things will be better appreciated, or will be better understood once we have adopted this, or once we tackle the multiple choice questions when we're doing the budgets, where you could determine how much will be the standard direct materials for this, how much will be the direct labor, how much will be the manufacturing overhead in manufacturing 1 or 2 products, etc. So for the sake of this, we just need to know their definition. And then how we could set this the standard cost. In setting standard cost, like activity analysis, historical data, target costing, strategic decisions, and then the benchmarking. These are the ways on how we could determine the cost for the particular product that we could give, or that we could present in the budget. So once we say that activity analysis involves all the activities from the time it is purchased, from the time it is being processed, and then from the time it is ready for sale. So those are the costs. Those are the activities that you should consider when setting the standard cost. And then the historical data, by using the figures from the past, you should use that as a basis on how you will determine your cost for that particular year, or for the next year, considering some allowances, or maybe you should add some certain percentages on how you could determine that final pricing. And then the target costing, so we're aware of that for example, we determine how this is the total cost of the product and how much margin or we should put above this cost. And then strategic decisions, and then the benchmarking. So once doing the benchmarking, you should compare your product. You should compare the cost of your product only based on the size of the company as well. For example, if you are a medium company or a small company, and then you're benchmarking your cost with a huge company, then your price will not be a competitive price, or will not be a good price or a good cost, since you're comparing a different size company. Because once it's a huge company, they have economies of scale. They are just enjoying the economies of scale, wherein they could produce more products or more volumes with a lesser cost. So since you are a small company, then you should have a higher cost. So compare your cost that you will be offering to your customer based on the same size of the company in the market, or in the or within your industry. Do not compare it with a huge company from small to medium, and then huge to small. Always within the same size or within the industry. Consideration in establishing direct material standards. So in purchasing materials, so we should always consider the quality, the quantity, and then the price. When it comes to the quality, if you want to have a good output, and then it will not compromise the quality of the product. You should purchase quality material so that it could lessen the waste, the spoilage, or some what do you call that? Or that could ruin the quality of the materials. So, and then the quantity, you should know how many material you will be needed in producing the number of products you want to sell, or you want to sell, or that you want to produce. And then also the price of the materials. So since you have the full access of all the service providers or all the vendors or suppliers, then you should have a better bargaining power to purchase the price based on the price that you want to accept. And then even if it is a if it is a lower price, but you should check yung quality naman ng product. So you should always, in purchasing the materials, you should know what to do, that the quality of the product will not always be compromised, or else you purchase that at a lesser price, then later on you will be the one to suffer. So mas marami ang wastage tayong makukuha doon. And then same thing with the direct labor standards. So when we hire people, you should know that they are, when we hire people, you should know that they are compatible enough regarding with their position, or regarding with their work, that they are capable enough in addressing the duties and responsibilities that they should have, and then they have the necessary credentials or experiences in addressing what we want from them. And next, establishing manufacturing overhead. So overheads, these are indirect costs that cannot be traced to any particular unit produced. So some of the overheads are indirect materials, indirect labor, and other indirect costs. So once we heard overheads, it always entered to our mind the variable overhead and then the fixed overhead. And then when I say variable overhead or variable manufacturing overhead, total amount is variable, but its cost per unit is fixed or constant. But when we say fixed manufacturing overhead or fixed overhead, the total amount is fixed, but the cost per unit is variable. It's changing. Okay. And then the relevant range, what's relevant range? Relevant range is the range of activity where these two costs remains the same. But if it's not within the relevant range, then these two costs will vary. Most of the problems that we will be tackling, and even in the CMA, the outputs or the number of units produced, it should always within the relevant range, so that the variable overhead and then the fixed overhead holds their cost per unit as variable or constant. Yan. So what are the different activity level that we will be using once we're setting up for the standard cost? So theoretical or ideal capacity, this is the level of activity that will occur if the company produces at its absolute most efficient level at all times. So meaning to say, theoretical or ideal, it's always 100%. So there's no room for allowances, spoilage, wastage, downtime. It's always 100%. So practical or currently attainable capacity or idle capacity, the level of activity reduced by allowances for idle time and downtime, but not reduced for any expected decrease in the sales demand. And then master budget capacity utilization is the amount of output actually expected during the next budget period based on expected demand. So normally itong master budget, it is a fixed activity being used in creating a master budget. Once you use this level of activity, this will be the same activity that you will be seeing in the next year and the second year, unless there will be some increase in the demand that you should consider. And normal capacity utilization, this level of activity incorporated some changes considering the season or the climate, and also the cyclical changes when it comes to the business. They're incorporated some allowances already. Okay. And then master budget, the culmination and the goal of the budgeting process, also called as the comprehensive budget, and then summarizing of budgeting financial statements, and then comprise operating and financial budgets. Master budget consists of all the budgets that we are preparing for the company, for the profit and loss statements, and then for the for the statement of financial position budgets. And then operating budgets, when we say operating budget, is something to do with the PL statements. These are the schedules that will support our P&L. And then for the financial budgets, these are the budgets that will support our statement of financial position or our balance sheet. And then static budget is prepared for just one planned activity level, and the activity level is whatever is projected before the period ends. So guys, tandaan nyo, static budget, it is designed for one planned activity only, one planned activity. And then the flexible budget is the budget prepared using budgeted variable revenues and cost per unit multiplied by the actual level of activity. The flexible budget, the variable revenues or cost should be adjusted based on the actual level activity, not based on the static budget activity. So yun yung pinagkaiba ng static budget and flexible budget. And flexible budget can be determined with different levels of activity. Only the variable budget revenues cost are adjusted. The fixed cost, pag may questions sa CMA examination or sa CMA questions, in which part does flexible budget and static budget remains the same? It's in the treatment of the fixed cost. Whatever fixed cost used for static budget, it will be the same budget for flexible budget. But what will be the difference in the number of activity that is being used? Because for static budget, only one level activity, but for flexible budget, can use two or more level of activities. Okay, and then under the static budget, the variable revenues and costs are not being adjusted, but for flexible budget, the variable revenues and costs are being adjusted based on the actual level activity. Okay, so dito mapapansin niyo guys, may actual results, static budget, and then the flexible budget. So from this, let's determine, no? Kung mapapansin niyo, di ba, yung fixed cost, as what I have mentioned earlier, yung static budget and flexible budget will remain the same. So, di ba, ang static budget 552, and then yung flexible budget is 552 rin. And then, tingnan nyo yung static budget na total variable cost. And then, yung flexible budget din, as under static budget, total variable cost is 2112, compared to flexible budget is 1,760,000. So, why there's a difference? Kasi yung actual level of activity is in-adjust natin para makuha natin yung total variable cost. We could come up with 1,760,000. So use your calculator guys. Total variable cost under the static budget is 2.112 divided by 24,000 units sold. So that's our variable cost per unit multiplied by 20,000. So it will arrive 1,760,000. And then the revenues 2. So 2,880,000 divided by 24,000 times 20,000, then it would be 2,400,000. So by looking at this table, we could determine the difference of the static budget and flexible budget, even the treatment of the fixed cost expenses for static and flexible budget. Okay. So I think the next one, okay, another, okay. So before multiple choice questions, let's tackle these different types of budgeting systems. So we just need to know again their definitions. So that maybe we will encounter in the examination that we should determine what is being asked by that particular problem. First, project budgeting. So since project budgeting, so we could know that this is the type of budget that is being created or performed when you're doing a specific project or special project. And then activity-based budgeting, focus on classifying cost-based activities rather than based on departments or products. And then this ABC, it is sometimes called as the ABC costing, activity-based budgeting costing. It's the most expensive type of budgeting being conducted by a company or being performed by the company, because they are considering a lot of drivers or cost drivers in determining how much will be the standard cost for a particular cost or for particular expense or particular line item. Incremental budgeting, it starts with prior year's budget or actual results and makes minor changes to come up with the next year's budget. So incremental budget sometimes di ba, pag may mga difference, may sinet up ka na, for example, 10%, and then you will give a minor allowances like, okay, I will increase 1% or 2%. That's what we call that incremental budgeting. The zero-based budgeting, coming from the root word zero, meaning to say that you don't have any basis or any base year to consider in doing the budget. It is as if you're preparing a budget at the first time or for the first time, or you're just starting from scratch. That's why it's called zero-based budgeting. And then continuous rolling budgeting, this is a type of budgeting that you already completed the 12 months, and then after a month you will drop that past month, and then you will add another month, split it 12. Or sometimes 3 months are being dropped, and then you will add another 3 months, so that in total your figures or your total budget will still be 12 months. So it allows the budget to be continually updated by removing information for the period just ended and adding estimated data for the same period next year. And then this flexible budgeting serves as a control mechanism that evaluates the performance of managers by comparing actual revenues and expenses to budgeted amount for the actual level of activity and not the original budgeted level of activity. I think I already been discussed this with the previous slides when we're comparing the static budget versus the flexible budget. So it is the same concept only. Okay. Multiple choice questions. Anong oras na ba? So for 18. Oh, guys, do you need some rest or some break? Or we will continue until we finish this, until 6? Or you want to pause? I'll let you decide. Or we will break, or coffee break,